Welcome back, everyone. We're live with another episode of Level Up Law, where every Tuesday at noon, South Carolina Legal Services levels up your legal knowledge about an area of law that we practice in. I'm attorney Susan Ingalls, and I'm here with our producer, Kenneth Elliott from our IT department. You are viewing Attorney and Public Benefits Unit Head for South Carolina Legal Services, Jenny Kaufmann, in our Conway office, and Melanie Maloney, excellent paralegal for our medical legal partnership here in the upstate. Today, Jenny and Melanie will be giving you the basics on the rules of having income when you're getting supplemental security income, or what we all refer to as SSI. And this is important because although some of the rules are the same, mostly not the same as having income when you're getting Social Security disability. So last week, Jenny brought you the information on that with our paralegals Melanie Maloney and Mary Lou Seymour. So we will link to that presentation down below. So you'll have that as well when we post today's episode to our YouTube channel. But before we get started, we do want you to know this is not legal advice. It's just general information for the public. And if you need the help of a lawyer, call our intake line here at South Carolina Legal Services or apply online. Check and see if you are eligible for our services and if your case is something that we can help you with. That information will be provided at the end of today's presentation as far as how to get in touch with us. And also, as a reminder, all of our episodes are posted by our wonderful producer, Kenneth Elliott, to our YouTube channel on the Level Up Law playlist. And he usually gets that done within about 24 hours. So that's awesome. If you have any questions and you want to look at it again, it'll be up there pretty quickly. Now, our presenters can answer general questions today if there is time at the conclusion of today's presentation. So please do put any questions that you have in the question box, not the chat box, but the question box. And again, we will post a recording of the episode on our YouTube channel and link it to that previous episode. Now, when you go to YouTube and check out our channel, be sure and like this video. And if you think it could be valuable to someone else besides yourself, please do give it the thumbs up. And hey, while you're there, subscribe to that YouTube channel because we've got a lot of great resources there. We're about to hit 1,000 subscribers, and we'd love for you to be that last one that we need to get to that number. So please do subscribe to the channel and sign up for those alerts so you'll know every time we post a video, whether it's Level Up Law or some other type of video, to that channel. All of that information, those websites and social media handles, can be found on the last slide of today's presentation. And also you can go directly to them from our website at www.sclegal.org. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Kaufmann and Melanie Maloney. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, Susie. Again, I'm Jenny Kaufmann. I'm in the Conway office, and I do mostly Social Security work along with other public benefits. I'm going to tell you now a little bit about going to work and receiving SSI. This is a very different program than SSDI, even though the disability definitions are the same. Working has a bigger impact on SSI benefits. So first you need to understand the basics. SSI is better known as Supplemental Security Income. It is a federally funded program. There are no state funds that are linked to it unless you live in a state that supplements SSI. In South Carolina, there is no supplement. You have to be aged, blind, or disabled. And so these rules actually do apply to individuals over the age of 65 as well. Some of these rules apply to people over the age of 65 as well as persons who are disabled or blind. It pays a monthly cash benefit that is set by federal law. In 2022, it's going to be $841 for a single person who has no deductions for other income, and $1,261 for a couple. Please understand that when they talk about a couple, both individuals have to be eligible for SSI. If only one of them is eligible, then the single person benefit is what applies. So this is a means tested program. Any non-exempt income reduces the amount of the monthly benefit. There's also a resource test, and you can't have countable assets or resources over $2,000 for a single person or $3,000 for a couple. There are some assets that are exempt, things like the house that you live in, one car, burial trust, ABLE accounts. And as you'll find out, there are some that you can put aside for work. What is income? Income is almost anything that you receive, whether it's cash or in-kind support, that can be used to meet your basic food and shelter needs. SNAP benefits do not count as income, however, because there's a separate federal law that exempts them. Each of the income rules can have each of the different types of income can have slightly different rules. There's child support, in-kind support and maintenance, unearned income, earned income, and deemed income. As an example, child support is counted differently if it's paid when there's a minor child versus if it's paid as arrears after the child reaches age 18. Unearned income, the most common example for people with disability is SSDI or retirement benefits. And for individuals over the age of 18, it would be survivor's benefits. There are also retirement benefits that you may receive from an employer or the military. Tribal payments, some are exempt, some aren't. Gifts of cash, almost every VA benefit is going to count as unearned income, as are unemployment benefits, except for those that were paid during the pandemic. The general rule is you subtract the first $20, and then you subtract any remaining income from the federal benefit rate. You only get to use the the general income disregard once. Earned income, anything you get from wages or self-employment. Those rules for counting how that's going to reduce your SSI is you get the general disregard of $20 plus $65 for any of your earnings. You then take what's left over from your earnings, divide by 2, and subtract that from the federal benefit rate, and then we'll tell you how much you can get in SSI. The reason it's important to maximize your SSI benefits in South Carolina is so that you can maintain Medicaid eligibility, and Ms. Maloney will talk about that later. We can go to the next slide. So remember, almost all income reduces SSI benefits after $20. For a general disregard, if it's unearned income, you get a $65 disregard. Unearned income reduces your SSI dollar for dollar, and earned income, it's $1 for every $2 reduction. Beware, there are other unearned income that may reduce your SSI benefits, and one of the most common ones is in-kind support and maintenance. If somebody is letting you live in their house for free, your benefits can be reduced up to a third. And so that could knock out, in combination with other income, knock out your eligibility for SSI. Deemed income, I'm not going to go over because it's complicated. I'm only bringing up substantial gainful activity because it's important to understand how that affects SSI benefits. It is what Social Security looks at the first step of any analysis it does of your ability to work. And if you earn more than SGA level earnings in any month, and that's gross, you could trigger a review of your disability. We're seeing this happen a little bit more than it maybe would have prior to COVID, but that's because hourly wages have increased. And so when you do your hourly wage times the number of hours you work in a month, you could easily find yourself consistently going over the SGA amount. And it's a math problem. If you earned more than $13.10 a month in 2021, that's going to be an SGA month. And if you have consistent earnings at that level, it might trigger a review for whether or not you still are disabled. Please note that rules are slightly different for individuals with a visual impairment. That has been around for as long as SSI has existed, since the 70s. All right. You have to remember that the SSDI work incentives that we talked about last week, which include the trial work period and other incentives, do not apply for SSI. So it's completely different. And that's important because there's no trial work period, no extended period of eligibility, and your Medicaid could stop if your SSI benefits are suspended. I recently learned that SNAP benefits or food stamps may also stop if you lose SSI, and you'd have to reapply for eligibility under a different program. There are a couple rules that are the same. Impairment related work expenses. These are always important because it reduces your gross earnings, and you need to keep receipts so that you can prove that this is an impairment related work expense. The expense must be related to your medical or mental health condition. So vehicle modifications, taxi cabs if you can't take public transportation because you have an anxiety disorder or you have a visual or hearing impairment, attendant care services if you need somebody to help you bathe, dress, and that's not paid for by Medicaid or Medicare, service animals, medical devices, prescription drugs, copays and deductives, assistive technology, and home modifications. All of these could reduce your monthly income so that you don't you don't lose your benefits. Sorry. There are also subsidies and special conditions that Social Security is going to look at. A subsidy is some kind of support provided by your employer. Let's say you are working in a physical job and you tire easily, and your employer lets you take more breaks than the other employees. That could be a subsidy that the employer is providing so that you're not working quite at the same level as everybody else. Special conditions are things like a job coach or other support that are provided by your employer or a third party. Usually the Department of Voc Rehab will provide a job coach that helps a person stay on task or get to their job, to and from their job, and just provides support throughout the day so that you can work. There are SSI only supports, and these include an earned income exclusion that I talked about earlier. The student earned income exclusion is very generous and something that is often overlooked. The special SSI payment for persons who work, that is a decision that Social Security makes. And then Medicaid while working. The student earned income exclusion, you have to be under age 22, regularly attending school, and they have maximum monthly and yearly income that is excluded from being counted. So I gave 4 years because we are still seeing a lot of overpayments and calculations being done pre-pandemic because, again, Social Security's offices have been closed since March 17th, 2020, and they are just now catching up with a lot of their workload from 2020. So in 2021, a student regularly attending school could earn $1,930 per month up to $7,770 per year. That increases to $2,040 per month in 2022 and $8,320 in 2022. So that's a significant amount of money that is just completely excluded from counting. Next slide. Regularly attending school can be you're going to college or university for at least 8 hours a week. You're in grades 7 through 12. You have to be age eligible to work, and you're attending school at least 12 hours a week. You're in a training course to prepare for employment for at least 12 hours a week, 15 hours if it includes shop practice. For in-home schooling, you also have to be attending 12 hours a week. If there's a reason that's outside your control so that you can't can't go to school, those school hours may be reduced except for the homeschooling course work. Property essential to self-support. This is important if you don't want resources to be counted against you and interfere with your ability to continue receiving SSI. So any property, real or personal, that you need to provide financial support for yourself. And it could be the specialized tools that are in your garage to allow you to work on and repair other people's cars, beauty shops, nail shops, a gas station, anything that you are actually working at and using as part of your work. Now, there's also an exclusion for property that is non-business income producing. So let's say before you became disabled, you owned some rental properties. Up to $6,000 of that business property, non-business income producing property is exempt, but it has to have an annual return rate of at least 6%. And Social Security is going to do the calculation, so you need to keep your records if you're going to prove that you're earning at least 6% on that rental property. Okay. Another important program that is not available for SSDI is the PASS program. It is the Plan to Achieve Self-Support. It is underutilized as well. SSA has to approve the plan. It has to be a reasonable goal that is going to allow you to return to work and not be dependent on SSI. So until Social Security approves it, it's not in effect. But it allows you to set aside money, property, other items needed for you to achieve whatever work goal that you are setting up for yourself. And the goal must be one that allows you to obtain employment that will get you off of SSI. Allowable past expenses include your school or training expenses, any special uniforms you might be required to buy, or tools, equipment. Think, if you're a chef and you have to buy a set of knives. Attendant care or child care expenses that are approved by Social Security. Transportation, it can help you buy a reliable vehicle so that you can get to a job, or in places that have public transportation, your bus pass. If you need services from a job coach, occupational therapist, you can put that into your pass. And supplies to start the business. So one of the more creative ways to use a pass is to get your SSDI benefits excluded. So let's say, and that will put you on SSI. So a reasonable goal might be to become a paralegal or nurse. Both of those are in short supply right now and high demand, especially for nurses. So let's say you're receiving $1,000 a month in SSDI. You're going to, as a nurse, earn at least $35,000 a year. So that's going to be well above the SGA levels. The cost to achieve the goal, you've got to go to school to become either a paralegal or nurse. And so let's say you decide you need $950 a month to pay for school. Social Security was going to allow you to exclude $950 of your $1,000 in SSDI benefits. Plus, you get the $20 general income exclusion. So you end up with only $30 of countable income. So you take the federal benefit rate for the year, and this year it's $794 minus the $30, and you get $764 in SSI. Plus, you're going to get Medicaid that will pay for your Medicare Part B premium. And then you use your SSI for your living expenses. You have to remember that you cannot use a pass to pay for your housing or food. You can also get wages excluded through a pass. So you want to become a teacher. I know teachers aren't paid nearly enough, but generally they're going to start at around $30,000 a year. And so you're working, but not as a teacher. You're working and you're going to school, and you earn about $700 a month because you're spending 15 hours a week at school. You get the earned and unearned income exclusion. Then half of your wages are going to be excluded, and you subtract half of those wages from the SSI benefit, and you could end up with a significant amount of money. And again, you still get Medicaid. So you just have to use the SSI for your living expenses. And both of these help you to have a little bit more money while you're trying to get trained to go to work. So this is just an example of how you could have a pass plan, you could have IRWEs, the impairment-related work expenses, and get your income down to below SGA levels, and to get your income up with an SSI check. And I'm going to say it again, you're going to get Medicaid if you have SSI. The one thing you have to be careful of when you're working and receiving SSI is SSA doesn't close your case while you're working. But what happens is your benefits may be suspended. And if they're suspended for 12 months, if you do not receive SSI for 12 months, your disability case is closed, you have to reapply and prove that you remain disabled. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be approved once you are suspended, once you are closed. So be careful of the suspension. Last week we told you about reporting, and for SSI it's even more important because your monthly benefits will fluctuate depending upon how much income you are bringing in. And it is really essential to keep proof. There are different ways to report your earnings or other income. You can do it through your My Social Security account. I worked with somebody yesterday on this, and I was actually impressed at how much information was available at my client's My Social Security account. You're supposed to report within the first 6 days of the reporting month. But remember, like any technology, there are going to be downtimes. You're not going to be able to get through on the telephone. You're not going to be able to access your My Social Security account, or they even have a mobile wage reporting app. And I'm going to show you what that looks like next. No, not next. So you have to report when you start and stop a job, your monthly gross wages, your work expenses, keep those receipts. If you start a third or a second or a third job, if you move to a different state, if you move to a different address, anytime your living situation changes, you need to report it. You also have to report any unearned income you receive. And for a pass, please report monthly those expenses and payments. You could lose the ability to have income or resources exempt under your pass program if you don't properly report. The app that I was referring to, it looks like this both on Apple and on both in the Apple App Store and the Google App Store. And it's kind of this SSI, the Social Security emblem. It has a reputation for going down, but it is another tool that you can use while the Social Security field offices are closed. Remember, you can't go to Social Security and turn in your wage reports. Finally, I want to again emphasize it is the gross wages that matter. It's not the number of hours each week that you work. It's not your hourly wage. It's your hourly wage times whatever hours you work in a week or a month. And it is the gross wages. That means before taxes, health insurance, any other deductions that, come out of your pay. So look at your gross wages. So even part-time work can be tricky, especially now that employers are raising a person's hourly wages, sorry. And what also can happen is that SSI eligibility can be converted to SSDI. So just be prepared. And that's all from me. I'm going to turn it over to Melanie.
Good afternoon. So thank you, Jenny. So as Jenny talked about, people are working. It's important. It's clear in today's society, more people are receiving disability are needing to work in order to maintain household expenses. But at the same time, the beneficiaries are concerned about the implications of going back to work to see if they're going to still receive their Medicaid benefits or their Medicare benefits. A lot of people get confused when we talk about Medicaid and Medicare, so I'll just go over those quickly. can go to the next, there we go. So Medicaid is a federal and state medical assistance program that helps pay medical bills for individuals who are unable to afford the traditional health insurance or who have been deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration or are 65 or older. In order to be eligible, there are several eligibility requirements, including income guidelines set forth by Medicaid. And please note that every state has different eligibility requirements, so check those if you are looking into Medicaid. Medicaid while working. So in 1987, Social Security Administration enacted what's called Section 1619B. It's also known as Medicaid while working, and that continues Medicaid coverage while you're still eligible for SSI. Even if you're not receiving a monthly cash payment, you still may be eligible for SSI payments. To use, Medicaid. To use this work incentive, you must meet 5 requirements. So number 1, having been eligible for SSI cash payments for at least 1 month. You still have to meet the disability requirements, which is a big thing, meeting those disability requirements, and also meeting the other non-disability SSI requirements, and needing Medicaid benefits in order to continue your work, and have gross earnings that are insufficient to replace SSI, Medicaid, and public funded attendant care services. Continuation of Medicaid while working. So this means that SSI beneficiaries who are earning too high of SSI cash payments may be eligible for Medicaid if they meet the requirements that I just talked about in the previous slide. Social Security does use a threshold amount to measure whether your earnings are high enough to replace the SSI and Medicaid benefits. And again, this is different in every state. So you can check that out on the Social Security website. The threshold is based on the amount of earnings, which would cause supplemental security income cash payments to stop in the person's state, and average Medicaid expenses in that state. If a SSI beneficiary has gross earnings higher than the threshold amount for their state, Social Security can figure an individual threshold amount if that person has impairment-related work expenses, which is what Jenny talked about in a few slides back, or if they're blind, have blind work expenses, a plan to achieve self-support, or a personal attendant whose fees are publicly funded, or medical expenses above the average state amount. Medicare, so Medicare is also a health insurance benefit that some people can receive. It is a federal health insurance program, not federal and state like Medicaid, but Medicare is for people who are 65 or older, people with end-stage renal disease, so that is permanent kidney disease requiring dialysis or a transplant, sometimes called ESRD, or persons under age 65 who have a disability and have received SSDI, so supplemental disability insurance benefits for 24 months or longer. As we all know, there are different parts to Medicare. There's Medicare Part A, which is the hospital insurance, so inpatient hospital stays, care in a facility, or Medicare Part B covers certain doctor services or outpatient care and other things. And then there's Medicare Part D, which has to do with prescription coverage. Everyone pays a monthly premium for Medicare Part B, and most people do not have to pay a monthly premium for Part A, but can buy Part A if they do not qualify for it. As Jenny talked about, it is super, super important to know that Social Security does routine reviews on your claims to see if you are still, in fact, disabled. They want to make sure that you're still disabled if you're receiving benefits. So it is extremely important to appeal any determination that you receive from Social Security stating that you're no longer disabled within 10 days. That 10 days is very important because you you run the risk of losing your health insurance benefits if you do not ask for a continuation of benefits. It's also important to let Social Security know in your appeal that you are still working and you have not yet undergone medical improvement. Again, Jenny talked about this, report your earnings to Social Security. You saw the ways that you can do it. You can do it by phone, you can do it by the app, you can mail it, but make sure you keep proof that you have sent that information to Social Security. I've had a lot of clients say, well, I sent it, but they can't give me proof. So it's really important to keep that proof that you have sent it, which form you sent it to them. And make sure you promptly report any changes in your work activity. If you've stopped working, if you've reduced your hours, anything is important to report to them. This way you can be paid correctly, and the Social Security Administration can tell you, if you're still able to receive Medicaid or Medicare benefits after you have returned to work.
Well, I want to thank Jenny Kaufmann, our public benefits unit head here at South Carolina Legal Services, and Upstate Medical Legal Partnership Paralegal Melanie Maloney. That was an excellent presentation on SSI and Medicaid while you're working. These questions come up a lot, and it's surprising, how many people don't know some of these rules. And it does seem like it's a math equation in some cases, but if you need help with any of that type of thing, you can always apply for our services here at South Carolina Legal Services. On your screen right now is our toll-free telephone number for our intake office, and we always have those awesome intake specialists standing by Monday through Thursday from 9 to 6. But if you can't call during that time, you can also apply online, and here's the link for doing that. And also, in addition to the information about how to apply for representation or our services, we've got links for you here to our websites and all of our online resources, as well as our social media accounts. So for all of these, you can find really good information about a really wide range of topics. So definitely check those out. And also, if you found today's presentation helpful, and I'm sure you did, I certainly did, and if you know it might be helpful to someone else, again, please go to our YouTube channel in the next day or two and share the broadcast out to anybody who might be benefited by seeing this presentation or even just listening to it. We want as many people as possible to get important information like this about legal topics. And while you're there at our YouTube channel, don't forget to like this broadcast and subscribe for more. And if you sign up for those notifications while you're there, you'll get a notification each week when we post a new Level Up Law episode, but also anytime that we post other videos, which we do fairly often. So be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Level Up Law on Tuesday at noon. And I want to just thanks one more time to our presenters, Jenny Kaufmann and Melanie Maloney. And thanks to you, our audience, for tuning in. We really appreciate when people find value in our episodes of Level Up Law. And when you tune in or you go back to our YouTube channel and view the presentation, then we know that it's being helpful, and especially if you share the broadcast and click that like button. So thanks again, everyone. That concludes today's webinar. We'll see you next week.